fun name is Epic, which you can make a lot of fun titles with. I've been working for them since November. The foundation started around 2011, I mean 2001. And since 2007, we've been doing educational programs on the island of St. Martin. We've offered free presentations and excursions for community schools, but also other community groups. And our foundation does a lot of research, also a lot of bird research throughout the Caribbean. And today we're going to talk, I'm basically going to give a short version of one of my presentations that I do for example, community groups and schools. And I'm going to talk about the importance of wetlands, because wetlands are a very important habitat for the birds on our island. What is a wetland? Very simple. You take soil and water temporarily or less temporarily, and basically you have a wetland. So wetland is an area that holds water either temporarily or permanently. We have various types of wetlands on St. Martin. Most importantly are freshwater ponds, saltwater ponds, and lagoon. Right now we have 5 ponds, including the salt pond, the freshwater pond, which is right next to it, the Belflame pond, or Little Bay Pond, Red Pond, and of course, not really a pond, we call it a lagoon. We used to have, in the 1950s, we had 19 ponds. In 2005, there was only 10 left, and now we unfortunately only have 5, which the causes we're going to talk about a little bit later. It's a shame that they're disappearing, and I'll tell you why, because they're very important. First of all, if you missed Jay's beautiful presentation this morning, our ponds are, of course, a very important part of our natural and cultural heritage. For example, the Great Salt Pond. Basically, I probably would not be living here if it wasn't for that pond. The reason why our island was colonized by the Dutch, for example, my mom's sitting right there, she's Dutch, was because of our salt pond. So it's very important to us, and basically it means we are sitting here today because of our ponds, or at least I'm standing here for sure, otherwise my mom would have maybe gone somewhere else to live. Next please. They provide a very important food habitat and protection for many types of animals. So if you look at our wetlands, so our ponds or lagoon, of course under the water you have various types of animals, such as a lot of fish, sponges, sea urchins, jellyfish, turtles, even juvenile sharks, and many more. They provide a very, very important habitat. Also above the water in trees along the coastline, such as the mangroves. Those are important home for many birds and other species, such as the iguana, and you can see those as well. They also provide protection for a lot of juvenile animals, which we'll talk about. For example, in the roots of the mangroves. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the mangroves on the island. Yeah. We have 4 different types of mangroves on the island: red, black, white, and buttonwood. The red mangroves you can identify easily because of their big roots that go down into our ponds and lagoon, and they provide a very important safety maze for basically juvenile fish that hide from big predators, so that they can become big and strong and go and swim out into our oceans. They're basically a very important part for our fishing industry. A lot of fish that we see for the gaming industry and our fishing industry and commercial industry, we basically are provided by these habitats, up to 90% in certain parts of the world. Besides protecting animals, they also protect us. The lagoon and the ponds, they protect us from various things, so storms, erosion, and flooding, and I'll tell you how. First of all, of course, the mangroves on the lagoon side, they create a kind of buffer. So when there are storms, first of all, they protect us against the wave action. So when waves come to shore and there's these big roots going down of mangroves or other plants, they hold the land together. They also provide, so against erosion and of course the waves going into your home, for example. They also provide the lagoon. You can see if we have rough weather, the boats like to go use our lagoon as a kind of safety zone. That's also very important to us. And they protect us from flooding. Ponds are kind of a natural basin, so you can kind of see it as if you have a leak in your roof. You put a bucket to catch the water. Well, ponds are kind of our natural buckets. So when the rain comes down and it flows down our hills, it goes into these ponds instead of onto our roads and living areas. Unfortunately, because as I said, 19 to 5 ponds, a lot of these buckets have been taken away. We of course have experienced a lot of flooding in the past few years, at least since I've been growing up, and this is one of the reasons. They also help us to improve air and water quality due to various amounts of very intricate processes. One of these processes, again, is because of our superhero plant, mangroves. They can filter out salt, nutrients, and also even heavy metals from the water. So again, these ponds provide our buckets to catch all this water, not just rainwater, but also the polluted water that comes down from our hillsides through the more developed areas. We also have a big problem with sewage, for example, on the island. They provide a bucket that all this water that is not safe for the ocean and our coral reefs, they basically protected from that. The ponds, due to all these filtration systems, make the water cleaner, they take the nutrients out before they go into the ocean and also affect our coral reefs. So if the balance was complete, basically the water would come down, it would get clean, and then once it goes out to the ocean, it's nice and healthy and also full of food for the coral reefs. This is a kind of a model I found on YouTube, kind of to explain more visually what happens when it rains, and how the ponds act as a base.
What we're trying to show is what happens to the water as it moves through a watershed. A normal watershed with lots of land uses like construction. And we've got some houses constructed here. We've got a little shopping mall or some other type of parking lot with a building on it. Then we've also got some wetlands, which are these sponges that we've got right here. And a few pesticides over here, and maybe some chemicals associated with this construction site right here too. Also on our roads, there's oil drips out of our cars. Watch what happens with our sponges and with our with the way the water runs down the site when we have a little bit of rainfall. So the wetlands are soaking up the water and the associated chemicals and keeping it out of the lake. That's the basic idea of what we're trying to demonstrate here. Let's see what happens if we get a little bit more rain over here on the houses. Remember, we had some fertilizer on the houses over here. Got a little culvert here under the road. That's what that's trying to get at. This time there's nothing in the way, right? There's no wetland there. So keep an eye on that water right there. This is basically why we need wetlands. You can see the rainfall from our culvert.
So that's kind of, I guess, a visual way how you see that wetlands also protect our ocean. For the rest, of course, wetlands, ponds, and lagoons give us a fun recreational area. So if the ponds were safer, I wouldn't recommend swimming in the salt pond right now or any of the fresh ponds. But we can, of course, we still sail in our lagoon, we still go kayaking. I wouldn't recommend swimming in certain parts of the lagoon, but you can definitely swim in other less developed areas. It can provide a very fun place for all of us. And of course, here at Smartton, we also always look at the economic reasons, which is fair enough. Basically, all the reasons I told you, so nursery for fisheries, protection, and of course recreational areas, they also have a certain economic worth. Wetlands are estimated 15 trillion, that's a lot of zeros, by the MEA, so the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. And this is because, first of all, fisheries, for example, if we look at our food industry, of course, that's a big industry. So we get our food. It's a very big economic or financial endeavor that we have there. Secondly, the damage that is prevented by these wetlands due to storms or flooding, that's also a big economic part that the wetlands, of course, the worth of the wetlands. And of course, recreational activities such as kayaking and sailing also adds to this worth. Clean them up and use them as parks, or even look more into birding, which a lot of foundations now are doing on the island. We can also basically create more ecotourism on this island, which also can bring in more money. Environmental challenges that our wetlands face, so I hope that I've kind of made clear why they are important. and why we should protect them, but they are in very dire state. For going from 19 to 5, of course, is one of the indicators. This is due to development, first of all. Development, of course, we build or we need more land. Also, development means more pollution in some cases. If we look at, for example, I can't remember now the area next to KV, which is being developed right now. Indigo Bay, for example, if we look at that area, that wasn't excavated properly, and a lot of sediments went into the water there. You know, development is a big issue, of course. We need development, but it's also one of the more environmental challenges that we face. Dredging, which means the basically taking up of soil, also creates an environmental issue. Filling and land reclamation. Jay had some beautiful thick pictures earlier. The pond, I guess, is about half its size now. So half its size. Yeah, the Great Salt Pond is about half its size now, so filling and land reclamation is a big problem. Deforestation, if we look at our mangrove forests, up to, they say, 85% of our mangrove forests have disappeared, which again, mangroves basically add to our fishing industry. They provide protection for us. They're a very important plant and they filter out our water. If 85% of that is gone, let's say that 85% of our fishing industry is also affected. Pollution such as garbage, oil, chemical waste, and sewage. I guess you can see it right by our neighbors right here, and it's seeping also into our ponds. Sewage is also a big problem here, and it runs into our ponds. It's basically too much for the ponds to handle at the moment. Oh, that's a little effect right there. Boom! Entertainment. How can we protect our wetlands? Of course, do research and educate yourself and others. You know, our foundation, I'm sure that all the other foundations, we think education is very important. Once people know about the importance of our ponds and also that they use, for example, that they protect us and they help us live a healthy and safe lifestyle, hopefully there'll be more of an animal to actually protect these areas. Practice good waste management. So of course, if you have a house with a sewage tank, or if you do have your garbage is full, don't throw it in your pond, or don't let it flow into your pond. Make laws and implement them. I know that the island, a lot of the partners have been really working on this. Hopefully we'll see some very positive changes in the future. We need to make laws and implement them for obvious reasons so that these things don't happen anymore. And do your part. So basically do your part to keep the ponds clean. Or sign up for any of our education programs on our website or Facebook page, or email me or call me. So there's a lot of ways to contact me if you're interested in any of our other presentations or a longer version about wetlands. Are there any questions?